Coming up on Network Africa, a South African soldier accused of attempted murder after argument over the wearing of a face mask appears in court. Somalia's leader presents his new pick for the next prime minister of the country. Plus, more desperate migrants jump overboard from charity boat off the coast of Italy. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin in South Africa, where a soldier is scheduled to appear in court to face an attempted murder charge. This relates to the shooting and wounding of a man during an argument over the wearing of a face mask in the northeastern town of Mogwadi. Police spokesperson says the 27-year-old victim is admitted in the hospital. The soldier was reportedly part of a group monitoring compliance to COVID-19 safety protocols in the town. However, South African National Defence Force spokesperson João Tianuse told local media that members of the public had attempted to grab the soldier's rifle when a shot went off, wounding the victim. Well, let's get more on this story from our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia. Hello, Betty. Thanks for speaking to us.
Thank you, Lion.
Now, this is an attempted murder charge against this soldier, but the National Defence Force suggests this was an accident. Help us understand what really happened.
Well, from the accounts of those who were present, as well as the SAN, or more like the SANDF account, the soldiers were part of a patrol team going through a mall, to ensure compliance, and a group of civilians who were not wearing masks were confronted for not wearing masks. And they attempted, that's the claim of the SANDF, they attempted to, or they threatened to disarm or grab the arm of the soldier. And then there was a scuffle and then the gun went off. And this 27-year-old man among the group allegedly was shot on the thigh, on the right thigh, and he's in hospital at the moment. So that's what we got to hear. And the charge against the soldier, according to the police, is attempted murder at the court in Limpopo province.
So with this case now in court, what consequence is this soldier likely to face?
Well, attempted murder, if that's what, it all depends on what the judge finds when everything comes out. Attempted murder is a Schedule 5, and it's not a small accusation. So, but as some of the people who are arguing are saying, if he actually meant to kill or shoot him, it wouldn't be on the left thigh. But I'm not holding brief for any side in this case. It is a serious offense, attempted murder, and you know that for the past few months we've had incidents of alleged high-handedness on the part of the police as well as the soldiers who are part of the patrol teams. We have cases where people have died. We have the case of Collins Koza in Alexandra Township in Johannesburg here, where he was beaten up by the Metro cops as well as SANDF members, and he died. That case is still, or the judge ruled against the SANDF, of course, in that matter. So there are other cases, and I think it will be taken seriously as well.
Indeed, there have been other cases, and I was just going to ask, what does this now say about this monitoring compliance to COVID-19 safety protocols in the town and even in the entire country on the part of the authorities?
The authorities, they're doing what they can, but also we have to look at the responsibility of people as well. People who know, and as the ministers have said, now that numbers are going down more than ever before, it is now time for people to now that more people are allowed to go out, visit people, it's now time for people to take responsibility, with regards to wearing masks and washing their hands and social distancing. More responsibility is left in the hands of the people now that the bulk of their freedoms have been given back, at this time. So there's monitoring going on, and there's still incidents, but still the onus is on the people to be more responsible regarding this thing, despite the monitoring. If people know the essence of them having to wear masks and to observe all the health safety protocol, they won't need anybody policing them or pushing them around.
Indeed, Betty. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Betty Debia, our South Africa Bureau Chief. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Well, here in Nigeria, the United Nations have pledged support to Yobe state government to those affected by the coronavirus pandemic, as well as vulnerable persons displaced by Boko Haram insurgents. The UN resident and humanitarian coordinator, Mr. Edward Callan, made this known in Damaturu, the Yobe state capital, while on a working visit to the state. He explains that a lot more needs to be done to curb the spread of the disease and ensure compliance to the non-pharmaceutical protocols of COVID-19.
The pandemic is going to be with us for a long time until a vaccine is found. Don't even start talking about the politics of the vaccine, which you are all familiar with every day. The decline in the number of confirmed cases is indicated to us as a collapse in demand for testing, and from our analysis has not got anything to do with containment of the virus with ongoing community transmission. I call on Your Excellency and members of the Executive Board to lead by example in containing the virus and hold institutions and organizations accountable to ensure compliance with the non-pharmaceutical measures. I am on this mission with the WHO representative, and the advice of WHO to governments and people is clear, and I quote, Your Excellency: test, isolate, and treat COVID-19 patients. Trace and quarantine their contacts. Inform, empower, and listen to communities. Keep physical distance, wear a mask, clean hands regularly, and cough safely from others. WHO has also gone further on advising governments to tackle the pandemic. They are urging us to focus on 4 priorities. 1, prevent amplifying events such as large crowds or crowded places. Empower people to protect themselves, focus on public health basics, and protect the vulnerable, including older people and those with underlying conditions.
The late Rwandan gospel singer Kizito Mihigo has been feted posthumously after he was found dead in a police cell in February in the capital, Kigali. The Human Rights Foundation, HRF, says he has been named this year's winner of the Havel International Prize that celebrates activists who exhibit artistic innovation in standing up against dictatorships. Mihigo is the first posthumous awardee since the inception of the prize in 2012. HRF further adds that they are very happy that the world is now recognizing Kizito's efforts to peace and reconciliation in Rwanda. Kizito was a Rwandan genocide survivor who released a song in 2014 in which he presented his compassion to those who were killed by Rwanda Patriotic Forces after the 1994 genocide. Omar Abdulaziz, an exiled Saudi political satirist based in Canada, and Badiou Kao, an exiled Chinese dissident artist based in Australia, are the other laureates of 2020. Somali President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo has named Mohamed Hussein Roble as Prime Minister pending an approval of Parliament. The president said Mr. Roble was selected on the basis of his knowledge, experience, and ability to move forward with state-building efforts and the development of national plans. If Mr. Roble wins the confidence of Parliament, he will replace Hassan Ali Kaire, who was ousted in a no-confidence vote by Parliament on July 25th. Mr. Rubble is a relative newcomer to Somali politics. His predecessor fell out with President Farmajo over different views on the election due early next year. Mr. Kari had insisted that elections should be held on time to avoid a political, security and constitutional crisis. In Zimbabwe, author Tsitsi Dangarembga has appeared in court just days after reaching the 6-book shortlist for the Booker Prize. Dangarembga was arrested in July during anti-government protests. By the time of her arrest, she had been nominated in the long list for the prize. In July, she and other protesters were bundled into a police lorry while carrying placards during a protest against corruption and economic mismanagement in the country. That time, images of security forces beating civilians circulated, and this prompted global outrage. And in response, Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa later vowed to flush out his opponents. Well, let's get more on this situation. Nigel Yamutumbu, Zimbabwean journalist, tells us more.
The case in which renowned Zimbabwean author Tsitsi Dangarembga, who is facing charges of inciting public violence, has been deferred to the 24th of September following submissions by the prosecution team that they are not ready. Tsitsi Dangarembga, whose charges are born out of planned citizen protest on the 31st of July, is likely to face a jail term should she be convicted of this charge. People in Zimbabwe and indeed the international community is following this case with a keen interest, is particularly at a time that the country is under immense criticism for criminalizing dissent, for criminalizing freedom of expression, and for the failure to adhere to constitutional and democratic practices. I think the African National Congress in South Africa has also been weighing in and trying to engage the Zimbabwean government to see how best there can be stability, how best citizens are protected, and to ensure a safe operating environment for activists, for the media, and civics alike. And the development also comes in the wake of a case in which journalists and activists, student activists, were brutally assaulted after addressing a press conference in Harare. And the situation seems to continue to deteriorate.
Zimbabwean journalist Nigel Yamutumbu there from Harare. Moving on to other stories, around 40 migrants jumped overboard from Spanish rescue ship Open Arms on Friday in an attempt to swim to the nearby southern Italian city of Palermo. This is the second consecutive day that a group of migrants jumped overboard from the charity ship. On Thursday, over 70 migrants jumped into the sea, who were then picked up by Italian Coast Guard and police ships. According to Open Arms, a total of 48 migrants jumped overboard today. The charity vessel carried out 3 separate rescue operations in the central Mediterranean between September 8th and 10th, rescuing over 270 migrants. They still await instructions on where the migrants will be allowed to disembark. Still ahead on Network Africa. Our Africa Tech segment shows you how educational technology is helping students during this pandemic. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Operators in the transportation sector in Lagos State, Nigeria's commercial capital, are asking for palliatives from the government to support their businesses with the increase in pump price of petrol in place. Bus and taxi drivers say the fuel increase is coming at a wrong time as the impact of COVID-19 is still being felt with fewer people traveling. Our correspondent Gimba Umar has more.
The streets have remained busy, uncharacteristic of an increase in the pump price of petrol in the past. Apprehension quickly gives way to despair inside this transporter's office. The staff are livid at the turn of events in the country, one they say bites the very core of their businesses.
After it's not my business, even me as a whole is affecting me. Going home and coming back, I know how much I'm paying. So what's the way forward? Forward, you just ask her. They would have engaged us in like a communication, period. It's not just, I just woke up one day, I saw that the prices of fuel has been increased. No.
In the heat of the moment, efforts to know their names are resisted. They instead refer us to a higher authority. He tells me the hardship persists with the fuel price increase, but more can be done by the government to cushion it in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic.
We take a lot of people off the government's neck. We do employ, and the government is not supporting us at all.
Passengers who make use of interstate and international transport by bus say all is not well at this time.
There's a lot of financial burden on a few persons who are working, so increased fuel price because of the coronavirus effect would not be the wise thing to do.
Yellow bus operators also feel the pain. So do interstate transporters, some in this park in Ojota. Many of the drivers reclined to speak as others looked on in a seeming state of depression. Others, however, stutter in a dialect as students home for now due to the pandemic lament.
There is no money. The economy is very tight and hard. Even we are undergraduate. There's no sign to show that when we graduate tomorrow there will be job for us. So I think the government should do something to try to bring the fuel price down.
We sought to speak with the Transport Union Workers Chairman in Lagos in a mission that proved futile.
The struggle, but victory.
For now, though, the NLC negotiates with the government for a truce, giving a September 28th deadline to down tolls if prices don't revert. Until that happens, transporters, including buses, taxis and bikes that have not increased their fares, will be left with no choice than to act otherwise. Gimba Umar, Channels Television News.
Workers affiliated to the National Union of Metal Workers South Africa, NUMSA, and South African Cabin Crew Association, SACA, have given government another deadline to provide a 10 billion rand rescue to the ailing South African Airways or face more protests. Meanwhile, SAA business rescue practitioners have received a letter from the government just before today's meeting with creditors, reassuring that the required fund will still be made available at a yet-to-be-confirmed time. Our South Africa Bureau Chief Betty Dibia reports.
Picketing outside the South African Airways offices in Kempton Park, Johannesburg, South African Airways workers affiliated to the National Union of Metal Workers, NUMSA, and the South African Cabin Crew Association handed a memorandum of demands on Friday. They say they are angry that the government has failed to make funding available to rescue the troubled airline.
This is a SACA NUMSA memorandum to the Minister of Public Enterprise, Pravin Gordhan, to the Minister of Finance, who refuses to give us money. The Minister of Finance speaks rubbish about our airline where he is the shareholder himself. Most of us here today have spent most of our adult lives serving this company.
South Africa Airways has not flown commercial passenger flights since March this year, when South Africa entered into a very hard lockdown to contain the spread of the coronavirus. In the midst of that has been a rocky business rescue and severance process for the workers. The unions blame the government on failing to protect their jobs and ensuring the competency of senior management as well as board members it had appointed.
This airline has been looted systematically from within by highly paid executives with highly paid board members knowing about the looting. And government can't pretend they didn't know about the looting because there were 9 forensic reports which were issued. All those forensic reports landed on the desk of both the DPE and Treasury. So government knew about the looting, but government did nothing.
We are saying we want a new fit-for-purpose board, and we want a new fit-for-purpose management. We will not relent until the board and management are gone.
The Department of Public Enterprises, the minister responsible for the SAA, said on Thursday that it was still trying to source the necessary 10 billion rand funding and that it was assessing proposals from several potential strategic equity partners. The deadline for the funding was Thursday. Meanwhile, the airline's administrators have been meeting with creditors this Friday to discuss the missed funding deadline. The administrators took control of state-owned SAA in December last year after almost a decade of financial losses and published a rescue plan in June following repeated delays and wrangling over its future.
Welcome to our Africa Tech segment. Games are known to incite motivation and engagement among players, and the same goes when applied to learning. Gamification has the potential to influence the way students learn and how much time they spend engaged in this learning. That is what Titi Adewusi and her team at Niger Kids were seeking to achieve when they started out, making learning fun using technology and games.
The COVID-19 pandemic saw a rise in the demand of the services of EdTech startups. With schools shut, most learning institutions transitioned online to adapt to the new reality. Many EdTech startups saw this as an opportunity and leveraged the situation to their benefit. Niger Kids, an educational platform that helps children fall in love with learning using games, is one of such startups that's thriving regardless of the pandemic. With an aim to improve the academic performance of primary school children while also imbibing important life skills and values in them, they've helped children remain engaged and motivated during remote learning.
With the pandemic, what we found out is that there has been an increased demand for education technology resources. So Nigeria Kids has experienced a real boom in parents and schools requesting for our games to help the children learn. Because one of the things you find out about online learning is that the longer it is, the more children get, unmotivated or just are not interested in learning. It becomes boring. And that's why you have to add in the flavor and add in the variety. And that is where gamification and educational games come in.
Where do these animals live?
Even though Niger Kids uses game as an alternative to the traditional learning, the mobile application is built around the Nigerian school curriculum, going further to prove that games can serve as an educational tool.
And that's it on the program today and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke. Have a lovely weekend.